Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and we're back on the 34 Ford project. So last video was probably the most argued in the comments video when we cleaned up the paint on 34 Ford because I took the spare tire off and we discussed maybe leaving the spare tire off and the spare tire cover, and it created a ton of controversy. I didn't realize that would happen. Basically, my idea with the car is, again, I'm embracing what was done with the car, but doing a couple little things to maybe clean the car up a little bit, or what I thought somebody might have done back in the day. And when you look at the old magazines, a lot of the cars, they cleaned things up in the 50s and early 60s by taking the rear spare tire off, taking the horns off the front of the car, and maybe hiding a horn under the running board or something like that. So there's some of those little things that were done that some cars had it, some cars didn't, and people definitely remember the cars that were in your neighborhood, in your area, and maybe a lot of guys had the spares on, but when you look through the old magazines, you definitely see a lot of cars that did not, but also some that did. So I chose to, for now, take the spare tire off, which left that little horseshoe in the back of the car, and what we need to do is clean that area up. And so what we decided and we hinted at in the video was taking the license plate off the taillight and moving it to the center of the car. So what I'm going to work on today is a little video making up a mount for the license plate that is going to both cover that area and also put the license plate in the center of the car. And that should be a nice way to clean the back end up. So just quick little fun video today. So let's get started. Alright, so I've been going through a bunch of different designs here to see what would work and what I like best. So what I started with, the first one was I was thinking about putting it upright. So having the bracket sit like this and having it upright, but that put the license plate really high, and honestly that's no better than the spare tire because it's just going to stick out and block the whole back of the car. So I kind of worked on another design where we are going to take a piece of plate and cut it out and then bend it over 90 and put the plate at the correct angle. So I made a rough one just to get the idea down, and then I'm working on another one where I'm actually doing it on the car, and I actually have the chipboard set up with a couple bolts through it, and it's holding itself up so you guys can kind of see like the idea here. So what I'm actually going to do is I wanted to keep the so what I changed between that other one was I decided, or realized partially through this, we got to make a license plate light. So I dug in my parts stash and I found one of these old Hollywood license plate lights that you would see really commonly on hot rods from the like 40s through the 60s. You would see them, they were really common accessories. So I threw one of them on with this license plate frame that you guys may remember was over on the driver's side over the taillight. So we're retaining some parts that came on the car, but I'm adding a couple, apart from my stash that I think will look correct. So what I need to do is back behind here, instead of just putting a flat plate, I want to add a little bit or grind away a little bit of this metal here. So what I'm doing is I stood back, like the way it looks. So what I want to do is actually kind of just trace the shadow, if you will, of this bracket, and that will help me when I'm cutting this out, that I can know I'm pretty darn close here. So this is why I make patterns a bunch of times out of chipboard before I even begin to cut any metal, because chipboard is a lot easier and cheaper to mess with. So I'm going to cut those little corners out, but I think we're onto the right thing here. I'll actually take it off and show you guys a couple different angles. So you can see the way it kind of matches the angle of the rear panel, sits off just a little bit so you can actually read it. It's not laid back. And I think behind the car it looks pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, it stands up. You can obviously see it if somebody's behind you, but it doesn't stick out. It kind of is a little more symmetrical from the back of the car and doesn't have a big spare tire blocking it. So I know there was a lot of controversy about that, but I think this is a good iteration. So I'm going to cut this little bit more chipboard, and then I'm going to start cutting it out of metal and making something up that we can mount up. Alright, so I got my pattern all made and bent up and cut out the extra metal just to save some excess. And I got some 1/8" steel that's just a leftover scrap here we're going to make this out of. And I'm going to be using this Eastwood bench here to do a lot of the cutting, probably 90% of it here. It can cut thicker than this actually, but I use it for 1/8" all the time. It works really well, and you guys might have saw I cut even my chipboard pattern with it. It actually works even for that. So it's kind of nice. You can go from thick to thin with it. And I've cut 3/16 plate with this. I cut bar stock with it all the time because it's got this little round hole in it there. But stuff like this where I'm just cutting a rough pattern, it works really, really well. Not a rough pattern, but trying to cut down a big piece. I'll cut the majority of the bulk out of it with this, and then we can go back with another tool and cut the remainder of it. I had to put it diagonal just because of the scrap metal I had some weird cuts on it, so we had to do the best we could there. So we can cut the rest of this out. Alright, so now we just got to cut our little curves out here. Got our holes all marked, and then I put a little mark for where the bend is, and I'll sand it all, we'll bend it, and we'll be in business. All right, I got the bracket all painted, and we're gonna throw this bad boy on. Show you guys how it looks. It pretty much covers up the whole entire white area, which is what we were going for. Alright, so that was a fun little project to get the tagway all done on the car. I'm really happy with how it came out. It's just a subtle little mod that we can easily change back if we want to put the spare tire back on, but I think it cleans up the back of the car and makes it look really, really nice. It's a nice little subtle custom touch. So next couple things we have to do is I'm going to start working on cleaning out the fuel system and getting the fuel lines all hooked up, and then we can work on getting the radiator and cooling system finally hooked up because it covers over the fuel lines. And then we'll be on to just doing brakes, tires, all that stuff, and finally taking it on the road. So thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. Let me know what you think of the tagway. I'd like to hear. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.
Hey, doggy.